How's it going, everybody? This is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. Although it may not feel like a typical May out there right now, we are getting close to the Memorial Day weekend, and with that comes the unofficial start to summer. And anytime my mind starts to wander thinking about the summer season, just like most, if not all of you, I start to think about going to the shore. So I thought today's podcast would present an opportunity to circle back with one of our mega agents down the shore, Jack Vizzard from the Jack Vizzard Group. Jack is a fourth-generation inhabitant of Avalon. He grew up on 7 Mile Island, and his team has won a bunch of awards, from New Jersey Circle of Excellence Platinum Award, Chairman's Circle Diamond Award, and they are also within the top 100 teams in GCI in the entire network. Jack knows the Avalon and Stone Harbor market like the back of his hand, so we're going to talk about the general market down the shore right now, how everything is going in Avalon and Stone Harbor, the secondary home market, which is an important part of their business down the shore, and where we're going to head to, in Jack's opinion, later in 2022 into 2023. So let's get right into it with Jack, and we'll pick it up on the other side. So I'm here today with Jack Vizzard from the Jack Vizzard Group. And Jack, you and I go back a little ways because you have dealt actually with both of my parents in the past. So I apologize in advance for this podcast here. So we know each other a little bit. And obviously, being the man down in Avalon, Stone Harbor, or 7 Mile Island, exit 13, you are the man to talk to down that way. And we're getting into the summer season now. So, everybody's going to start gearing up towards the shore. Memorial Day comes. Everybody wants a beach in front of them. So I thought you were the perfect guy to reach out to today. So first and foremost, how you doing, Jack? How's everything going down there?
Doing well. Thanks for the kind words. I've enjoyed getting to know you through the years. You're doing great things up there in Philadelphia. And you're right. A lot of folks, their minds turn to the beach as soon as that thermometer gets above 60. So, it's fun. And COVID's been interesting because it's the choice of place to go to, because not many people are getting on a cruise boat or getting on an airplane if they can help it. So the shore becomes a real obvious choice. Yeah,
I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up because I feel like COVID has definitely changed the dynamic of what we do, right? We tend to head to the shore a lot more now because we weren't getting on planes and just like you said. So that's interesting. And I want to know how that affects the dynamic of sales down your way as well. Everywhere in the US right now, everybody thinks that it's a monolith, that it's the same everywhere you go. But even in our area, back towards Philadelphia and the suburbs, no two local markets are the same. So what's happening down your neck of the woods right now on 7 Mile Island? Like, what are you seeing locally where you are? How is the market right now in Avalon and Stone Harbor?
Market is strong. It, since COVID, it has, like we talked about, has become hyper-focused as a place to be in the tri-state area. So rentals are up and they're booked very quickly for the last 2 summers. And sales are happening within days of being listed. Probably not as brisk as your market with the 20 and 30, 40 offers in a day, but we'll probably sell a good listed home, priced well, good looking home, probably in 2 to 3 days. So it's not as hot, let's say, as your market, but then also the geography gets in the way, because as a second home, not a primary home, you have to travel an hour and a half down here. And so you might wait a day or two to fit that into your business schedule or weekend schedule. But the market is hot. We typically have between 350 and 400 active listings pre-COVID. We have 15 houses for sale. So there's just not an inventory to select from.
That is just, that's amazing. The price point where you are obviously can be very high. And the fact that homes are selling that quickly, days on market wise, is really an indication of the lack of inventory, just like everybody else. And in fact, leading into my second question to you, the Fox and Roach quarterly market insight report came out yesterday. And so I was looking at Avalon in particular. And just to kind of verify your points and what you're making, sales actually decreased 21% year over year, quarter number one, from January last year to January this year. But prices were up. If this is correct, I was ready to fall out of my chair. But they said prices are up almost 30% year over year in the Avalon market. Now, I don't know if that feels accurate to you or not, but the listing inventory was down 28% year over year. And so, like you said, you're used to a couple hundred, if not more, listings coming on the market, and you got 15. I don't know. I mean, how do you make a living doing that? How are you staying successful in this market down there?
It's a challenge. Last year was a banner year. We also have rentals versus, you guys, we do a lot more rentals than you would up in Pennsylvania. So that's a stream of income. There's also another group of inventory that's kind of quiet listings that it doesn't make it to the MLS. The person is thinking about selling, but hasn't signed anything formal, and that can turn into something. Just the thought of them thinking about selling makes its way to certain agents, certain buyers, and then something's put together very informally. It's not listed. So that a little deceptive that what's out there and what actually gets sold. But we've had a great January. We've put a couple things under contract, and a couple more things are coming our way. So it's the beginning part of the year, and but it should be more. There should be more volume.
Do you find that the quiet listings down there, is that a big part of your business? Just from someone who doesn't do business down there, do you find that to be a large part of what you do?
It's bigger than it's ever been, but I wouldn't call it a big part of anyone's business, but it's bigger than it ever was because the competition is so brutal and cutthroat. But, I think some of that might change with things that are happening on the horizon with the war in Ukraine, with inflation. COVID seems to be dimming down a little bit in its seriousness, maybe still out there, but we have more things to treat it with. So those things probably change the environment in the next 6 to 12 months, but in the next 3 months, 4 months in summer, I don't expect any changes.
And you had mentioned the rental market being kind of crazy. And so does your mindset shift a little bit with the lack of, sales inventory out there? Do you kind of do business a different way? Do you market different right now in the market to gear it more towards, say, the rental side than the sales side? Or do you find yourself doing the same things in terms of your marketing?
Yeah, we stay focused on sales. The rentals is kind of a ancillary business that is great because there's always a demand for it. There's less and less people willing to rent their homes here. So you have two things going on. You have more demand to rent and less inventory of selection of people who want to rent. So rentals are fairly easy to book.
Yeah, so you got people basically lining up down the street, probably all the way back to Montgomery County, where I am, to get down there.
People have called in the last couple of weeks, and we just shake our head and say, you're way out of touch. It's a shame. I feel bad for them, but it's the last couple summers people have been doing this, booking in September, October.
Yeah, I think, just anecdotally, like I know a couple of friends of mine actually have houses in Cape May. And so we tend to go down to Cape May a lot. And we have obviously ins with getting into a property down there. But I can imagine on the rental side, it's just as brutal. It is up here as well as buying a house and trying to get down the shore. Obviously is not going to be the easiest thing for people to do right now. And I do feel bad about that. I feel like affordability all the way around is kind of the issue that we're all dealing with right now. And so for those people that are trying to live out their dream, because I know I'm in that boat, right now I'm renting when I go down there. I don't own, but I would love to. How has it been working with the secondary home clients in this market? I mean, do you see with the increase in pricing, does that put a damper on your client base for the secondary home market down the shore? Or do you feel like there's always going to be clients because the demand is always going to be strong?
I think the demand is always going to be strong. And I just say this, kind of looking back to my childhood, I think almost, not everybody, but almost overwhelming majority of people in the tri-state area have, depending upon their family dynamic, either it's a major dream or a minor dream, but everyone, it seems, has these great memories and wants to build on that. And so part of their goals in life are to either acquire a house down the shore or, always ensure that they have a 2-week rental. So it's a big part of this tri-state area. It's a big part of your life is the shore and that experience. And then, but affordability. So I think it's a goal of a lot of people in the tri-state area, but affordability specifically on 7 Mile Island, sad to say, is pulled away for most folks. The average selling price for a single family home is about $2.6 million.
Wow.
The entry level condo, like a side-by-side condos, are very popular here. In Avalon, that's probably going to be entry levels, probably 1.8. You can't get a single family for under $1 million. You can't get a single family for really under 1.5. Just a piece of dirt. So it's pulled away from a lot of people, and this isn't the only island. There's like you mentioned, you have from Cape May, the Wildwoods, Strathmere is a really cute little town, Longport, all the way up. So there's other towns that are more affordable. But this town has been a goal of many people for a long time, and the demographic has really changed to really an affluent clientele.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, and we always went to Avalon. Like that was our place. That's where we always went. In fact, I still remember the house vividly that we would rent every year was this little ranch house on 41st Street on Dune. And it had this little whale over the front door. And it was right around the corner from the Marble House, which you sold, correct? Wasn't that? Yeah. So it was right around the corner. And I still, some of my best memories were in that house. And unfortunately, it is gone. Somebody has built on that lot. But along those lines, a few years back, you and I met at a property. Now, I'm going to bring this up because I really want to stick it to my mother here a little bit, is that you reached out to us and told us about this fantastic little condo. I think it was like a 4-unit condo right off of Dune Drive, right near, I think, the surf beach was at 29th. And I think this house was on 30th, I want to say. Yep. And you and I met down there, and my wife, and we saw this place, and it was a slam dunk, man. It was, I think it was like $375 at the time. And we went back, and everybody was telling my mother to buy this property, everybody. And she didn't do it. And I think it came up for sale the following year because we kind of kept tabs on it. I think it was like $100,000 higher than next year. I can't even imagine what that house or that condo would go for at this point. Yeah. And it's scary to think about. Actually, it's frustrating to think about.
Where, and in defense of your mother, who's a great lady. Hindsight's 2020,
Yeah, definitely.
And nobody saw COVID coming. When COVID started, I said to my wife, bunker down, because we're probably in for a recession like we haven't seen in a while. And nothing happened for several weeks. Nothing happened. And the deals that I had in the pipeline, several people wanted out. So we were nervous. And then May hit. And we had a deal where the guy had to have the house in less than a week. And he paid full ticket. And then from then on, we never looked back. It was just this sense of urgency. Got to have it. I don't care about the price. So it's just, and so then that just escalated prices, and demand kept, and so that's had its course for 2 years. But in the beginning of COVID, so no one has a crystal ball, and your mom, it's hard. but it's fun to tease, I guess, and that they're probably close to 8.5 now.
Oh God, you're killing me. Well, I tell you, I never miss an opportunity to just give her a hard time about that property in particular, because it was such a great property. You did such a great job of finding her something. So listen, I appreciate your effort. Let's put it that way. So, with that said, and the reason why I brought that up, number one, is to kind of, just call out my mother a little bit, but also it leads me to my next point, because that was I felt like I was amazed that you could, at that time, get that kind of property down in Avalon near the beach, right off of Dune Drive. It wasn't the biggest place. It was a little small, but it was great. It was totally updated inside. So is there a place on the island at this point where you would say, hey, you're getting the most bang for your buck here, right? I know, some of the hotels that were on 81st were converted to condos or what have you. Like, where in your mind, if I want affordability, and I know that that's a relative term when we're talking about Avalon and Stone Harbor, right? But like, is there a place where I could still get into and I could get some bang for my buck on the island somewhere? Like, where would you recommend if I come down for a couple of weeks and then I want to rent it out? What would you recommend to your clients coming down there that don't have, a small fortune to spend on a property? Is there even a place like that at this point?
So it is relative. Small fortune is relative, but I would say the two areas that are most affordable, relatively speaking, and that I see will be the next frontier of growth, would be over the 21st Street Bridge, which was kind of the armpit, quite frankly, of Avalon. It was kids. When I was a kid, I rented there, and all my buddies rented there. Group houses were all over, and the cops kind of looked the other way, and it was great little. But then Avalon got smart, the township, and they imposed sanctions on owners that if you had more than 3 violations in one summer, the following summer they don't have to give you a license. Well, that shook people, because if they were using those rentals to pay their mortgage and then they couldn't rent because they didn't have a permit, that was really so the hammer came down. And so that's been a long time. That's been probably every bit of 20 years. And so that has evolved. Now those little duplexes have turned into nicer duplexes. And so what was, $500,000 there is now $1 million. But like a single family over there that we sold in the late August, September was 1.1. Single family, 40-footer. That's very affordable here. And builder bought it. He's going to build a nice little house. So that over that bridge, cute little part of the island, it is no longer group rentals. It's more single family, affordable housing, if you want to call it that. But that's the next frontier. Over that bridge, over 24th Street Bridge, and then also in Stone Harbor on the courts, what we call Weber Court and Stone Court. They were originally servants' quarters. They were half lots. So if a normal lot's 50 by 110, these lots are 50 by 55. So they're half lots, but they're affordable, relatively speaking. So a lot there is going to cost you about $1 million. You build a really tight little place, but it's all about kind of hanging your hat. If you get down to basics, it's a roof over your head, bedrooms, and a kitchen. And so you can do that in Weber Court, Stone Court, in Stone Harbor, and then you could do that in 21st Street and 24th Street over those bridges.
I think the thing that we always see, because obviously the island is only so big, right? There's only so much land to go around. So you constantly see people buying older properties, knocking down the house, building a new one. And that's a common practice. And have you seen what the cost of construction and what that costs now? Has it been punitive to those that want to do something like that, like buy an older property, tear it down, maybe build a duplex or condos or even a new single family on a lot? It certainly doesn't seem to be slowing things down. But do you see any effect at all with the pricing that people have to pay now to do that? Do you see any impact on the market with doing just that?
We don't, because again, the demographic has changed to a well-heeled community. And even if you didn't have those resources at the ready, it makes common sense to increase the value of your home. So if you have a little cottage and you turn that into in Avalon, a 3-story home, it might have cost you a good amount of money to do, but now your house is, instead of it worth being a ground value of $2 million, it has a value of $4.2 million because you put that house on it. You could sell it at any time, or you could borrow money and equity and pull it out and use that for other investments. So it's a smart move either way, but you're right. It's a shame, but everything around us has gone up. And that's the world we live in: inflation, food, gas, and it's all trickled down. So prices are high here.
For sure. All right. So we talk about the now. Let's talk about the future a little bit. And I just want to pick your brain. Where do you see, or what do you see happening in the near term as it relates to real estate in the Avalon Stone Harbor market? And do you think that the interest rates rising are going to have any kind of effect at all on your market? Or do you think it's going to remain the same? What do you see around the corner for Avalon and Stone Harbor? Do you see more of the same moving into the next few years? Do you see that changing at all?
Well, no one has a crystal ball, but you take your best guesses based on what you see. Inflation is serious. Interest rates only affect the entry-level homes on the island. So anything from $1 million to $2 million is considered entry-level. Those folks, are very sensitive to rates, and now they're higher. So that could affect that entry-level market. The market from $3 million and above is mostly cash, and so I don't think that affordability will be of interest rates will be a matter of concern. But I think there will be a slowdown in September. Prices probably neutralize, and then and houses will sit longer because I think COVID is ending. That's my personal opinion. People will travel more. There's probably pent-up demand to get to Europe, to get to different countries. So I think that the excitement and the need to be on this island will kind of dissipate. So the sense of urgency for that home will kind of slow down. But if it's a beautiful home on a nice spot, and it's priced fairly, it will sell. But I don't think we're gonna have the kind of activity that we have now, where you have to have it because there's nowhere to go, and this COVID bottleneck and feeling trapped inside your Bryn Mawr home that no longer exists. The masks have gone away. We're kind of relaxing everything. So I think that we're going to have the prices probably won't go down. There might be some adjustments on hard to sell homes. They will be discounted, but the premium homes, they'll stay neutral. It might take longer to sell. Interest rates will affect entry level, but $3 million and above will not be affected because their cash really is cash.
Yeah, it seems like if there's one place that wouldn't be overly affected, it would be something like your market, where you talk about like the cash that's readily available down there for purchasing property. And so, just a side question: how do you do just traditionally? Obviously, we're getting into your busy season down there. How does sales go typically down in Avalon? We had mentioned, we were talking off recording here, that the weekends are very busy for you. Is the off season a busy time for people to buy property in hopes that they're going to get in there by the start of the summer season, or do you see sales at their fastest pace sometime in the spring? Like where is your busy season, or is it an all year round thing?
In the last 2 years, it's become more year round, but traditionally there's a steep run up after Super Bowl. Let's say the second week of February, you're off to the races, and it peaks probably mid to late May. And then it starts to drop a little as kids get out of school, people vacation. And so it kind of comes down a little in the summer. There's activity, but not as much. The fall is usually a quieter time. The interest level goes away. The serious shoppers are still there. but the excitement of a upcoming summer is gone. And so you have a long 9 months in between the next summer. And so the serious buyers are out there. Probably like one of the best times to buy is the fall. But the excitement's not there. So this is our busiest time. Summer's very steady and active, and it's the reason you keep coming back, is the good time that you experience then. And then the fall is, there's a marketplace, there's deals to be had. And then come January, February, it's very quiet.
You had mentioned it a little bit earlier. Do you see, and this is just anecdotal from me when I'm down there, do you feel like people are staying down longer now? Do you feel like people tend to come more in the off season now? I feel like there's more activity down there just in what I've seen, a couple different short points. How does Avalon and Stone Harbor do in the off season? Do you see more people heading down there that time of year?
The first two summers after COVID, people stayed till every bit of November.
Yeah,
which is rare. Usually they packed up after Labor Day. The 2 weekends after Labor Day were fairly busy, and then it was a big drop off. Kids were back in school playing soccer and football. So the first COVID summer after that was very busy here. Second was similarly busy. People were working. I think what's really changed is the shoulder days, I'd call them shoulder days of the weekend. So people are coming. Used to be a stereotypical, but it used to be the father or the breadwinner will come down, let's say Friday night, stay the weekend, go back Sunday night. Now it's with COVID and you can work anywhere. That owner / breadwinner comes down Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, goes back Monday night. Mm-hmm. And that's okay with society and work and everybody involved. So that's increased. But this year we felt people were going back because their kids were back in college, back at sports, so it's a quiet place in the winter. A lot of things close up. There's not as many opportunities to go out to dinner, or stores close. And so it does become an isolated, quiet town in the fall and winter.
Okay. So I know having grown up on the island, and you're a former lifeguard at that, I know that you are in much better physical shape than I am, because I see you and your wife training for different things all the time. So what are you currently training for? And what are you going to be kind of putting us all to shame over soon? Are you doing any triathlons or anything anytime soon, or what?
Ocean City Triathlon's coming up May 15th. And then the Tim Kerr Triathlon will be in Avalon. Most of our working out is to kind of regularize our brains from sometimes there's stress involved in this job, and it's a 24/7 job. So if a daily routine of exercise, just the endorphin release, and you come down off of what can be some pretty intense conversations, and people, they really want what they want. They're used to getting what they want, and we're trying to do that for them. So I think it's a function of regulating our brains and staying sane, working out, and it has the added benefit of keeping a good physique. But we're looking forward to those little races and seeing everybody come back. Every weekend's more and more crowded, so you see people on your runs and your bikes, and so I love the crowds. Some locals don't, but I love the crowds.
Yeah, and just you brought up something that I probably should mention, and probably something that is difficult for you. I think the high-end clientele that you deal with are definitely a certain personality type, usually that power personality, or, like you said, they're used to getting what they want. How is that dealing with that type of personality, dealing with the expectation of, okay, Jack, I want you to get this for me, and I expect you to do it in this kind of market where there may not be a lot of negotiation for certain things. Like if you're representing a buyer and supply is so short down here, obviously the seller typically has the leverage in this market. So if you're representing a high-end client that way, do you find it harder working in this market, meeting, satisfying their demands when it comes to buying and selling property?
a good question. You're right. They're all type A personalities. So you put type A to type A, that's really who's going to win, And so when I'm representing buyers, I just give them very straight between the eyes advice. I'll say, for instance, example, they want to buy a house, and I say, okay, this is what you have to do. Cash, settle in 2 weeks, give them the summer, like whatever. If you want it, then you've got to show me your ability and, willingness to do exactly how it. And when they don't follow it, we had an instance where someone didn't follow it. We went to a closed bid situation. We went to the other broker opening the bids, and I told him what to do, and he didn't listen to me. And we got there, and he opened them up, and exactly how he lost by like $10,000. And I said, I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. And so if they listen to our guidance, they'll typically get it, my opinion. Sellers are kind of, that's a little bit of a challenge because it's growing so quickly, and you try to give them guidance on, and I tell them, I'm rooting for you. I want you to get more money. But there's an educated crowd out here who looks at the recent comps, and they're not going to overpay. But once in a while, I'm wrong. The market will surprise me, and someone will pay that outrageous number. So sellers are I find hard to manage and guide because the market has changed. Now, I think it's neutralizing. So I think comps are going to be very important. These last 4 sold for, let's say, $4 million. So 4.2 is where you should be, because I don't think they're going to pay $5 million anymore for a $4 million property. Last summer, yes, with everything that's going on, I think that story has ended, in my opinion, and in the last several weeks' experiences.
Yeah, and I think it's always one of those things where it's almost like, when you price a home, they say it's part art, it's part science, right? And you kind of get like that spider sense, right, of where we are in the market, where it's going, and your best guess. It's an educated guess, but it's still a guessing game. You don't know that market has passed you by until it's already gone. And so, I always tell same thing, that pricing a home in this market, I always tell my clients that there's not a danger necessarily in underpricing, because if you underprice it, you're going to get a million bids, and that's going to drive the price up. But there's still always that danger of overpricing. And if you overprice it, you shoot for the sun, the moon, and the stars, and you end up getting 1 offer as opposed to 5. Now you're negotiating down instead of negotiating up, and from a position of weakness and not strength,
Great.
And so I feel like that's kind of what you're saying. All right. So last question that I have for you, because like I told you, growing up, we always went to Avalon, and there is something very near and dear to my heart in Avalon. Actually, a couple different things, but I don't know how you, growing up on the island, living on the island, how you avoid Kohler's crumb buns or Mallin's sticky buns. And so my question to you is, on the complete opposite end of fitness, which I know you're very much into fitness, how many crumb buns or sticky buns do you eat a year? Do you go to these places often? Because if I lived down there, I would refuse to answer that question, because my whole life would revolve around breakfast baked goods. So how do you do with those? 0? Get out of town. Are you serious?
It's weird. Lori is my wife, obviously, but our diet is very, we have sweets, but that is excessive. That is too much sugar, too much sweets. We have a great bakery next door to us, Isabel's, and we might go there 3 times for lunch in a summer. I was saying, between the work aspect of 7 days a week and having 3 young kids, we barely get out ourselves. We're just always working or working with the kids. So it's a great town to live in and raise a family. But the business, as you know, keeps you so busy, and so do the kids. So our time to unwind is really in January, and that's when you might find us having a dessert or two, or slacking off. But
I had to ask, because I mean, shout out to Jay Mallon. You know Jay, right, from the Bluebell office.
Sure.
So his sticky buns, fantastic, right? But Kohler's crumb buns are my absolute weakness. In fact, I made my wife, when we were staying in Cape May last year, I made her get up early because you know how long that line gets.
Right.
So we left Cape May. I can't remember what time it was. I'm not an early riser either. So for me to get up early, like that is like a monumental task. So we got up. I forced her to drive with me to Cape May, to Kohler's. We stood outside for like an hour just to make sure that I could get my crumb buns and take them back. And I ate way too many to actually say on the podcast. It was an embarrassingly large amount of crumb buns that I ate that day. So yeah, I can't avoid them. I have to have them. So
hey, everybody's got that one sweet tooth, right?
Yeah, or many, in my case. So anyway, Jack, I just want to say thank you for your time, man. I really appreciated you talking to us today, and great information on 7 Mile Island down there in Avalon and Stone Harbor, and much continued success to you. And hopefully you have a great year full of new expensive listings.
Thank you. And I think we're off to a good start. And if we can ever help you out, we live and work here, so we're obviously dialed into everything going on. And, if I can help you out, give me a shout, or any of your friends, give me a call.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it.
Be well. Bye-bye.
That was the interview with Jack Vizzard about the Avalon and Stone Harbor markets. We thank Jack for his time. Here's a couple of takeaways that I had from my conversation with Jack. Number one, the Avalon and Stone Harbor market is like many other markets out there right now, and we are seeing a lack of inventory. In fact, Jack had mentioned that at one point in time, there was only 15 active listings on the island. That is extremely low, and obviously many of you can relate to how that is. So that's going to affect the market down there, especially the secondary market. If you're looking for a second home in the Avalon and Stone Harbor market, it's going to be hard to come by right now. Which leads us to number two. If you are thinking about purchasing a home on 7 Mile Island, then be prepared to pay a premium. A condo or a single family home in the Avalon or Stone Harbor area may easily go above $2 million. So if you are thinking about buying a second home, make sure that you bring a large checkbook or even a bag of cash if you want to get the deal done. The silver lining in all this brings me to my last point, where Jack talks about the future of the market down in Avalon and Stone Harbor, and he can foresee a slowing or a cooling of the market starting after this spring season, maybe late this summer, the fall, heading into next year. Things may tend to cool off just a little bit, and it will not be quite as crazy in the market, which would be a good thing for all of us. Well, that's it for this week's episode. We'll be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest, and we are going to be celebrating our 50th episode coming up with a very special guest, so I hope you will look forward to that. I'm really excited to bring that to you. And if you want me to cover a topic that I haven't spoken about yet, please reach out to me at jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to our podcast yet, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Until next time, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.